There is no such thing as black eyes. Everyone with this eye color you've seen is just an extremely dark brown or pretending otherwise, and if your eyes are blue, you can thank one single person who lived thousands of years ago, since that mutation is still sitting inside every blue-eyed person alive today. Your eyes are a survival record, coded by climate and rewritten over thousands of years by wherever your ancestors squinted at the sun, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what story yours has been telling. Let's start with the one almost everyone in the room already has. Brown eyes are the default setting of the human species. Over 70% of people on this planet have them, which means statistically, you're more likely to be reading this with brown eyes than not. What's actually happening inside them is a story about protection. Brown eyes carry the highest melanin concentration of any common eye color, and melanin absorbs light instead of scattering it, functioning almost like built-in sunglasses. That means less sensitivity to glare, stronger resistance to bright environments, and a lower risk of the light-related conditions that lighter eyes tend to struggle with. If eyes were equipment issued for a climate, brown eyes were issued for the sun, but there's a hidden layer to them too. Catch brown eyes under warm, low light, a sunset candlelight, and you'll suddenly notice gold and amber tones surfacing that were invisible a second ago. Culturally, brown eyes get read as grounded, dependable, trustworthy, the eyes of someone you'd hand your car keys to without thinking twice. Which makes what's coming next a little jarring, because the next eye color on this list isn't actually the color everyone thinks it is. Here's the setup. You've probably assumed your whole life that blue eyes are blue because of a blue pigment. Reasonable assumption. Also completely wrong. There is no blue pigment anywhere in a blue eye. What you're actually seeing is the exact same physics that makes the sky look blue. Light scattering off a low melanin iris and bouncing back at a specific wavelength. It's an optical trick your own eyes are performing on you, and on everyone looking at you, every single day. Blue eyes evolved in low-light northern climates, regions where sunlight was scarce for most of the year. Less melanin let more available light flood into the eye, which helped ancient populations see better in dim, overcast conditions. Great adaptation for a Scandinavian winter. Considerably less useful for someone standing in direct afternoon sun without sunglasses. And then there's the fact that tends to stop people mid-sentence. Every blue-eyed person on the planet today shares one single common ancestor, one mutation, thousands of years ago, that just kept getting passed down the family tree, generation after generation, all the way to whoever is reading this right now. So next time someone with blue eyes calls themselves one in a million, you can tell them actually they're one of a very specific, very traceable bloodline. Psychologically, blue eyes read as innocent, emotionally open, gentle. A random mutation somehow became one of the most desired traits on the planet. But if you think rare is impressive, wait until you see what happens when an eye color shows up in only 2 out of every 100 people. Green eyes are the rarest common eye color on Earth, showing up in roughly 2% of people. And unlike blue or brown, green isn't created by one dominant factor. It's a genuine chemical balancing act between melanin and a second pigment called lipochrome, layered with the same light scattering effect that gives blue eyes their color. Structurally, it might be the most complicated eye color that exists. That complexity is exactly why green eyes rarely sit still. Shift the lighting, and you'll watch them slide from deep forest green to a warmer gold, almost reactive to the room around them. It's probably why folklore has spent centuries tying green eyes to witches, forest spirits, characters who always seem to know something nobody else does. To be clear, there's no actual science linking green eyes to personality. But when something is rare enough, human perception fills in the gap on its own, and green eyes have been benefiting from that gap for a long time. Still, as rare as green eyes are, they're not actually the rarest thing on this list. Not even close. That title is coming, and it isn't even really a color. If brown eyes came prepared for bright sun, and blue eyes came prepared for dim light, hazel eyes never picked a side at all. They sit in the middle, a genuine blend of green, brown, and gold, built from a moderate combination of melanin and lipochrome that performs reasonably well in almost any environment. Watch a pair of hazel eyes across a single afternoon, and you'll catch them doing something almost theatrical. Green in shade, gold near a window, deep brown under indoor lighting. That's not a filter, and it's not your imagination. It's iris structure reacting to whatever light happens to hit it. That constant shifting has earned hazel eyes a reputation for being expressive and a little unpredictable, eyes that seem to be running through several moods before you've finished a sentence. Old folklore ties them to transformation and intuition, and honestly, for an eye color that refuses to commit to one shade, that tracks. But hazel's flexible chemistry actually sets up the next color almost perfectly, because amber eyes take one half of that same recipe and push it to its absolute limit. Amber eyes are built from high levels of lipochrome and almost no melanin at all, which is essentially hazel's gold half turned up until nothing else is left. The result is a rich, stable gold or copper that barely changes no matter the lighting, which is rare on its own. Since most eye colors shift under different light, they're genuinely uncommon, found in under 5% of people, more frequently across parts of southern Europe, Asia, and South America. And the resemblance is hard to unsee once someone points it out. That same golden coppery glow shows up in wolves, big cats, birds of prey. It's not surprising that amber eyes get described as intense and alert. They look quite literally predatory. That's amber in one clean line, gold turned all the way up. But the eye color coming next isn't defined by more pigment or less. It's defined by almost none. Gray eyes are what happens when you take blue eyes and remove even more melanin. They exist because of an even lower pigment threshold than blue, and they evolved specifically in cloudy, low-light regions where the sun rarely fully commits to showing up. Because they carry so little melanin, light scatters across multiple wavelengths inside them, which is why gray eyes almost never look the same twice. Silver here, slate there, occasionally flickering blue or green, depending entirely on their surroundings. That instability has made them feel almost ghost-like across history, and it's earned them a long-standing association with calm, controlled intelligence, the strategist in the room who seems to be thinking 2 steps ahead of everyone else. Here's the thing worth clearing up now, before it gets confusing. Green eyes are the rarest common eye color, roughly 2%. Gray eyes are rarer still by some estimates, sitting under 3% globally. But neither of them is actually the rarest thing your eyes can do. That distinction belongs to something that isn't really a color category at all, and it's coming up in a moment. First, one more myth to break. You've almost certainly met someone you'd describe as having jet black eyes. Except that's not biologically possible. What you were actually looking at was an extremely dark shade of brown, so densely packed with melanin that it reads as solid black to the human eye. True black eyes, pigment with zero brown underneath, do not exist in nature. That density makes these eyes some of the most protective on the planet. Maximum defense against UV rays, maximum defense against glare, engineered for environments where sunlight isn't occasional, it's constant. They absorb almost all incoming light and barely shift in appearance. Regardless of setting, sunlight, shade, fluorescent lighting doesn't matter. They hold their look. This eye's color is common across Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia, and across centuries of storytelling, it's carried the same reputation over and over: power, privacy, authority. Villains and ancient kings in old folklore are almost always described with eyes black as night. That's not just poetic language. Dark, unreadable eyes read as unreadable people, and unreadable has always made humans a little uneasy and a little curious at the exact same time. Which brings us to the one eye trait on this entire list that isn't a single color at all. Everything you've heard so far has been about a single, uniform eye color spread evenly across an iris. Heterochromia breaks that rule completely. It's when someone has 2 entirely different colored eyes, or sometimes multiple colors swirling within just one iris, and it happens through genetics, through a condition called mosaicism, through developmental shifts before birth, and occasionally, later in life, through an injury or medical condition. It affects less than 1% of the population, which makes it, statistically, rarer than green eyes, rarer than gray eyes, rarer than anything else on this entire list. But it's worth separating from the others, because heterochromia isn't really an adaptation to sunlight or climate the way every other color on this video has been. It's not solving a survival problem. It's biology quietly breaking its own pattern, mid-process, and somehow producing something that looks intentional. In most cases, it doesn't affect vision at all. It's simply a signature, one of the rarest visual fingerprints the human body can produce, and it's often described the same way across cultures: magical, artistic, impossible to look away from. So look in a mirror after this, and ask yourself the question we opened with. If your eyes are blue, remember there's one person thousands of years back you can thank for that. If people call your eyes black, remember they're wrong, and now you know why. Comment your eye color below, and I'll tell you exactly what climate your ancestors were fighting to survive. And if this just rewired the way you think about the mirror, you know what to do next. Subscribe, there's a lot more of this coming.